How's the posse doing?
Posse's doing great. We have about 2,000. I utilize the posse. By the way, under the Constitution, the sheriff can swear in private citizens. I do that. We have about 500 that are armed, and when I mobilize the posse, I give them the authority to enforce the laws. So we utilize I believe it's 54 different posses now. We have airplanes and Jeep posse, horse posse, you name it, we have it.
Do you think Sarah Palin would do well as a posse member?
Oh, it should be good. I don't know what assignment I'd give her, but she's okay. I'm sure she's a good shot.
And that's what you need, right? My son's ready to join, but he's only 3, and he wears a Batman suit all day, so he might stand out, Sheriff.
Well, we don't hire 3-year-olds, but when I'm still around as sheriff, when he gets to reach 18, come on down to Phoenix, and we'll take care of him.
See that? All the liberals, the hair just stood up on their backs when they heard you're still going to be sheriff. Then, you know.
Well, I had a birthday on Flag Day, June 14, 1932, so you can figure out that I'm a senior citizen. So I'm raising money, and I'm going again in 2016. The reason I did not run for governor because I would have had to resign the next day, and I have too many programs that I'm working on. I just told you about one. I have a few other sensitive situations going. I have to fight the Department of Justice. They're still going after me. I have some federal judges that took away a lot of authority on the illegal immigration because of their decisions. So there's a lot of work that I still have to do.
Isn't it fitting that someone like yourself, born on Flag Day, I think that just makes a lot of sense. My daughter this year, she actually has a May birthday, but we had her birthday party on Flag Day, and, we also celebrated Flag Day that day and gave out flags and talked to the kids a little bit about that, not just the birthday. So, having a great American like you born on that day makes it just fitting, Sheriff, let me tell you.
Well, I'm proud of it. My mother gave birth to me. She died in childbirth because she refused an abortion. So, but I'm sure she's proud of what I'm doing these days. 55 years in law enforcement, and I'm not giving up yet.
Well, a lot of us are proud of you, Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Thank you so much for all you do and for spending some time for us. You're a great example of someone who stands up for what is right and doesn't back down when things get tough. God bless you, sir.
And thank you for your support. Thank you.
For more on what the sheriff is up to, visit mcso.org. That's mcso.org. This past week, some of the cast of the hit show Duck Dynasty joined Governor Palin in Alaska. After the visit, Palin wrote online, quote, "Great to have the Duck Commander crew in Alaska." The Robertson family joined us this past weekend to honor wounded warriors flown up for a healing retreat at Franklin Graham's camp in the wilderness. And we chowed down together on scrumptious moose barbecue in our backyard. It was a spectacular day with down-home friends and family. The patriarch Duck Commander and I had a great chat, unfiltered by the media, unquote. Phil Robertson has a new book out. It's called Unfiltered. To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page, follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA, and visit sarahpalinchannel.com. Now it's time to strap in with the Colonel. Here's our friend Colonel Rob Maness.
Thanks, Kevin. The race for the U.S. Senate in Louisiana has gotten even spicier since the last time I was with you, and you can see all the latest news at robmaness.com. Most surprisingly, our research team dug up overwhelming evidence that Senator Landrieu lives in D.C., even though the law requires her to live in Louisiana. She said she still lives with her mom and dad in New Orleans, but personal statements, state and local documents, her statements of candidacy, and even her voter registration card from 1997 suggest otherwise. I'm a Louisianan. I live in Madisonville, Louisiana, and I haven't lived with my parents since I was 17 when I enlisted for the United States Air Force. As a former commander, I understand the threat to national security an open border presents to our country. I oppose amnesty in all its forms and will not support giving citizenship to anyone who has broken our laws. But national security also demands a complete commitment to our Second Amendment. While Senator Landrieu supported the UN Small Arms Treaty, I'll never support any new national or international law to restrict our gun rights. Most importantly, I'm advancing positive solutions for us to address the challenges confronting Americans. An all-of-the-above energy policy, a jobs plan that would reduce the impact of government taxation and regulation, and an education plan that would stop Common Core and expand opportunities for all. I'm Colonel Rob Maness, and I'm running for liberty, prosperity, and certainty. I'd like your support, and if you live in Louisiana, I ask for your vote. Please visit robmaness.com for more information. This is retired Colonel Rob Maness for Mama Grizzly Radio.
Join us again next month for another segment of Strappin' with the Colonel featuring Rob Maness on Mama Grizzly Radio. Colonel Maness joins us the first Sunday each month right here. For more on Colonel Maness, head to robmaness.com. That's robmaness.com. ROBMANESS.com.
It's time for Commonwealth Common Sense with Susan Stimson and Kevin Scholla.
Hey, Susan, how are you?
Kevin, I'm doing well. We've had a little bit of a rough week, though, here in Virginia.
Yeah, the McDonald's finally a verdict in on that situation. You know, it makes me think back to the 1992 presidential campaign when President H.W. Bush, one of the big lines at the RNC that year was, "Who do you trust?" And on the campaign trail, when he compared himself and Bill Clinton, I think that he asked that question today, and the answer is pretty much nobody when it comes to Washington or here in this situation in a governor's mansion.
You know, Virginia has always enjoyed a reputation for being different. You know, the Washington-style politics have seemed to stay away from how we do business. But over the last few years, I would say that the overall distrust in government and then in our elected leaders, that culture has been cultivated among those who are in elected office. And one of the points that I have been making about this is the elected leaders have a power that we don't. They have an authority and a position that we don't. And that power that they have is to hold one another accountable for each other's own good, for the government's own good, for the people's own good. And I think that this needs to be a wake-up call for real ethics reform in Virginia, but also for those who hold elected office to take another look at why they're there. And if you think about freedom, you know, the true freedom comes when there's trust, you know, that you trust that your government, you trust your elected leaders, that if they tell you they're going to do something, that they do it, and you are free to enjoy your life. You don't have to spend your time worrying that they're telling the truth or what it is that's happening, just like we trust in America. Someone commits a crime, you can call the police and they will come and help you. They will keep civil order. And I think what we're seeing is a lack of trust. And when that happens, we are not free. And it's going to be up to our elected officials to do something about this, hold each other accountable, but also really do some serious reflection on what these ethics reforms need to be.
Many of the candidates we've had on this show over the years have said that that's what they hear really the most from potential voters out on the street, is they want someone they can trust. And the real unfortunate thing is that if people do not trust you, what happens is a lot of times it's the conservatives, the common sense folks who say, well, you know what, I don't like either person. I'm going to wash my hands of this and, you know, vote for an independent, do a write-in, stay home. But the left doesn't do that. They don't care, you know, if there's a trust issue or not. They still want to get their agenda through. So not only are you getting people who aren't trustworthy in office, but it's, you know, really catering to the left, because that's why you have so many on the left in charge right now, because they are out there voting, you know, in sometimes multiple times and in buses and being paid to do so, and, you know, that drill. But that's another layer to this. So, yeah, it really is tough to see in Virginia and nationally.
I agree, but I do have hope in, you know, in what the Founding Fathers did set up, you know, the framework in our nation, and I also have hope in the people. I think that they're reaching a point where if our elected leaders aren't going to fix it, then the people are going to rise up together and insist that they fix this.
That's it, and they have the power. Let's hope it happens. Susan Stimson, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Susan Stimson in Virginia. More Commonwealth Common Sense next week. Now our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. We are determined that before the sun sets on this terrible struggle, our flag will be recognized throughout the world as a symbol of freedom on the one hand and of overwhelming force on the other. This is a statement by General George C. Marshall, one of the greatest generals and statesmen of the 20th century. Those who lived through World War I and World War II understood the evil that threatens freedom around the world, and they knew that decisive, overwhelming force is the only way to defeat it. History tells us that sometimes it's necessary to rid the world of evildoers, like ISIS, that threatens us. But the president appears to believe that the world is too sophisticated for war anymore. Robert Kagan authored a compelling article in the Wall Street Journal this weekend, reminding us of the fallacy of the post-World War I appeasers. Kagan concludes his article with a powerful warning, and this is it. The wise men and women of our own time insist that this history is irrelevant. They tell us when they are not announcing America's irrevocable decline that our adversaries are too weak to pose a real threat, even as they pile victory upon victory. Russia is a declining power, they argue, but then Russia has been declining for 400 years. Can declining powers not wreak havoc? Does it help us to know that, in retrospect, Japan lacked the wealth and power to win the war it started in 1941? Let us hope that those who urge calm are right, but it is hard to avoid the impression that we have already had our 1931 and we head deeper into our version of the 1930s. We may be quite shocked, just as our forebears were, at how quickly things fall apart. This is Sarah Steelman from Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. The Palin Update, including Strappin' with the Colonel, Commonwealth Common Sense, and Steel Resolve, is on demand and available for download. So just head to mamagrizzlyradio.com, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. That'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Visit mamagrizzlyradio.com for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also like Mama Grizzly Radio on Facebook, and follow along on Twitter at Mama Grizz Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Rob Manus, at Susan B. Stimson, and at Sarah_Steelman. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Head to Breitbart.com and search Kevin Scholla. I want to thank Sarah Steelman, Susan Stimson, Rob Manus, and everyone here at Mama Grizzly Radio. Thanks to Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.